Hello, recording. Hey, everybody. We're now starting the webinar and people will be filing in. So let's give folks a few minutes. Somebody will eventually show up or not. It'll be interesting. So there are awesome 18 people already in here. Great to see you all. The public chat should be available for y'all on one of the sides. Guy and I have slightly different interfaces, so I don't know which one's correct, but there should be chat. So feel free to say hello. Hello, everyone. And we'll get started in a few minutes. Our goal in this webinar is to give you the Plutio 101, the rundown. Guy and I will be switching screens and flip-flopping between those to show you the basic, the ins and outs, and those kind of fun things. We do not plan to go too deep into things, and there are certain things we, of course, will be missing, but that's all right. Though if you have any questions, both Guy and I will be monitoring the chat, so do let us know if there's anything specific, and as long as it's not too much of a deep dive, we can answer your questions, and we'll do what we can. So let's give people another few, 1 or 2 minutes, something like that, and we'll get started from there. And while we wait, we have some wait music. No. I'm not going to show you guys my shower voice, though I do recommend some coffee.
So, Peter, where are you located?
I am
waiting to get in.
First question from Dave. Yes, it will be recorded, and for attendees, you'll be able to watch it afterwards. If you're not an attendee, well, you are, all of you here are attendees, but who are not attendees can't watch it. Only if you signed up, you will be able to watch the recording. I know a few people from Australia have emailed me and asked the same question, so they'll be watching that in the replay. And to answer your question, Guy, I am in the north suburbs of Chicago. I'm in Evanston, so right now it's right after lunch for me. So I'm nice and full, and I have a fresh cup of coffee, so happy days.
Perfect. So you're coming from Illinois in the U.S. I'm in Ohio in the U.S., so I'm about an hour west of Columbus, which is the capital city of Ohio.
And you have potatoes.
Ohio? No, that's Idaho.
Oh, that is Idaho.
We do have a lot of ag, but it's mostly corn and beans and other some decent dairy. But yeah, I just like to do some intros like that to see where people are from and give people an idea where we're at, because we've got Colorado, Boston, got some other places around.
Rock on. Those Australians are both upside down and asleep. How dare they? Crazy Australians. So for all of you Australians watching the replay, hello, don't worry, we didn't forget about you. Just love making fun of Australians, it's fun. All right, so I think it is a good time to start. So welcome everybody to the webinar. I'm Peter Krzyzek. I own Chykalophia and the brand Lab.io, and I am creating the Plutio 2.0 course. It's named Plutio 2.0 because there was a Plutio 1.0 course, and so now this is a new course, so thus 2.0. I'm a nerd, and thus the course. And as I mentioned, today we are going to be going over the Plutio basics. And to answer Doug's question, the new course is far updated and a lot better than the original course, so take a look for that. Now, you Guy.
Hey, I'm Guy. Like I said, I'm here in Ohio. I run and own Datalytics, but I also just really enjoy using tools and SaaS and no-code as well tools. Mainly do work in, I would say automation and workflow is like my main line of business. But with Plutio, I offer services. I am an expert, but I just enjoy meeting people and figuring out their use cases and making the tool work for them, and just doing whatever I can to make the tool and Plutio succeed.
Awesome. So let's jump straight in. First, we're going to give you an overview of Plutio, where things are in general. And from there, we'll just start jumping into the parts that we've seen people asking about in the Facebook group. Though, as always, if you have any questions, please do ask questions in the chat. That's the best way to answer your specific question. So if there are no particular questions, we'll just keep rambling on.
We've got a couple of questions about your course.
The course, yes, from Doug. The Plutio 2.0 course, everybody who is on the original course, which I keep forgetting to turn off. So please stop buying that one. It's outdated. It seriously is. But I kept it on because I kept forgetting to turn it off. Everybody who's on the original course will get access to the new course. So there's that. You do not have to purchase 2.0 if you already got 1.0. So I'm being nice about that. The other questions, are we live on Facebook? No. To get access to this video, you have to be here. But since you're asking the question here, you already are here. So yay. But no Facebook Live. We'll figure that out another time. But for this one, because Guy, sorry, and I, of course, we're not Plutio employees. We are Plutio experts. And what that really means is that Leo likes us enough to call us Plutio experts. That's about the only connection we have. We're not employees. We're not affiliates. Well, actually, I guess I have an affiliate account, but I don't use it. And stuff like that. So we're in no way
certification program either. So there's no like test or trial or any kind of thing we had to go through.
Yeah, so both Guy and I are just regular guys. Okay, bad joke. Anyway, yes, you will get bad dad jokes all day long from us. Anywho, so he and I are just doing this because we think it's fun, and of course we want to sell our own stuff, so that will be pitched throughout. But let's get straight in with the basics. Guy, if you don't mind, I'll start with some basics and then hand it over to you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So here we are. For those of you who are going to be looking at this window, please do let me know if I need to zoom it in more. I always try to make this nice and big and happy for everybody, though some people can't see. Sometimes I can't see either, so that's okay. Anywho, Plutio has a decent amount of features. It's not perfect, and they're still building it out, but it has, I think, a great amount of features if somebody wants to be all in one place. There is the dashboard. The dashboard is kind of your home screen. Well, they originally do call it home. It's your home screen. You can have some generalized quick information over there to give you an overview of what's going on. Some things are clickable, others aren't, but it's a good place to start and get an overview of what's going on. You can also have multiple dashboards and dashboards based on roles. You cannot have individual dashboards based on a unique person, meaning you cannot customize the dashboard for a very specific user, though, or a group of users other than by role, but you can customize your own. And thus, a user can customize their own as well. We also have tasks. We'll get into tasks. Well, we'll get a lot into tasks. That's probably where the majority of this will happen. Projects. Projects contain tasks. We have financials. And I think this is where a lot of people got confused. Invoices and subscriptions, meaning recurring invoices, be they auto pay or just auto bill, all live inside of financials. So that is kind of a confusing word. Hopefully they build that out and make it more betters. Proposals.
Keep in mind, for everybody watching too, this menu is completely editable. So if you want to change the layout, what's in the menu, and what the tabs are named, you can do that. I didn't want to step over your feet, Peter.
No worries.
Because this is 101, so keep in mind, most everything in Plutio is customizable.
Some things aren't customizable. So we'll get that out there. There is some things you can't customize, such as emails. Those have very limited customizability. Notification messages, like this stuff you see here, you can't customize that beyond this. If you want to really go design crazy, you would have to wrap this around something like Cloudflare and then have that inject some CSS or JS code for you. But we're not going to get into that. So there's a decent amount you can customize, but like in any system, there are still limitations. We'll get to some of those later. Proposals, contracts, and, well, invoices are very, very related. They are all separate, but if you create a proposal, you can have the proposal have an attached contract, and upon acceptance of both, it can auto-generate an invoice or invoices, depending how you set this up. From there, we have contacts. Before we get into calendar, contacts, I will admit, and Leo, if you're watching, I'm sorry, but I do think contacts is the weakest part of Plutio so far. I am hoping they build out a nice powerful CRM to hopefully match something like HubSpot. I'm not asking them to go as HubSpot crazy, though. I think we need more features here to make this more manageable. Bulk imports. I know a lot of people have been asking for imports, migrations, exports, better management tools of these kinds of things and the overall experience. There is some information you can have about a person here. Just a quick view. You can add an event for them. You can add some quick notes. You can see their projects, timesheets attached to them, invoices, proposals, contracts, and conversations. We'll get into that in a bit later. And if you edit this person, you can add some additional details and add custom fields. But this is kind of the limitation. There's nothing beyond that. So hopefully they build it out further. There's the calendar.
Questions too while Peter's talking. FYI.
Awesome.
Keep going.
Thank you, Guy.
Of course.
We do have a calendar. Some people have had some troubles with it. The synchronization between Plutio calendar and Google Calendar is not. It's not a instantaneous synchronization. Sometimes it does take a while for things to filter one way or the other. Though, as far as I found in my tests, your regular calendar will not filter back into the Plutio calendar here. Though, if your items in the Plutio calendar have have a start date and end date, it's much easier for it to show up here. So put things here with dates and they will show up. If you do not put both dates, it most likely will not show up. So food for thought. Wiki is, I've always struggled how to define the wiki in Plutio. Though think of it as
in Plutio. Think of it like that.
Yeah, I was going to say that, except yeah, somewhat. It's not there. It's not as powerful as Notion. It's not as dynamic. It's not as shareable, though it does have sharing features. If I go into this page, we can copy a link and we can see this page, not in exactly this view. We can also lock this. So this is more or less how it would look. If you don't have white label, you will see powered by Plutio here, there, and everywhere. But it is, in essence, a simple content manager thingy. That's about as much as I can say about it. It works. Don't get me wrong. It's okay to put stuff in here. I personally prefer Notion. My wife and a few of my business partners prefer Google Docs or Dropbox Paper, to each their own. Although if you want one thing, you can have your documents here. You can have an actual document-like document as a file, and you can have Wiki. Wiki could be for the whole company, for a project, or sharing with a person specifically, and there are permissions for all those. Wiki also does have a category. A category contains pages, but a page cannot contain category. So think of the page as the thing somebody's going to read, where a category is a folder, which can also have content. Kind of like that. Inbox. Inbox is probably the most confusing part, I think, or at least named the most confusing piece. When people see Inbox, a lot of people we've seen are wondering, oh, okay, so this is about emails. It is not about emails. This is Plutio's chat feature. It can have a chat widget that you can put somewhere on a website, including inside of Plutio in a whole bunch of roundabout ways, though it is chat, no more, no less. It's not a crazy advanced chat. There are some nice things in here. I don't think for my course I've mucked about with chat yet. Yeah, I don't think I got to chat yet because I keep ignoring it because I don't know what to say about it other than it exists. But you can chat with somebody. You can have a group chat. You can have, as in a specific set of people. You can have a chat per project or per groups. Yeah, I already mentioned. Oh, there's one sample. There we go. So it is a simple chat. One of the reasons I don't use it too often, or at all really, is it's all here. I don't personally like that there's this much screen space taken and the chat is here. I use different chat apps based on the client, and internally in the team, we use something else as well. And there's no dedicated chat app with a just chat feature, which is what I would need if I wanted to use Plutio chat. So food for thought. Timesheets, my favorite. I love timesheets because then I can build things easily. Well, timesheets and invoices, my personal favorite. Though timesheets, I think some people get turned around due to the interface, though timesheets are rock solid. They tell you when something started, stopped, how long it took, and or. update either one of these and it updates the other one correspondingly, which is rather nice. You can add multiple entries into one timesheet, which is really nifty. If you pause a timer, you can attach it to a task. Well, you can give it a title. You can attach it to a task. Though note, this is a very important caveat. So I will mini deep dive here on tasks, on timesheets. If you change the title of a timesheet entry, and then when you go to invoice somebody for your time entries and you click merge, so you can merge a whole bunch of things together, it will not merge the differently named time entry with its like thing. So if I time track this task called task and I change it to task foobar, it will not merge these two together, even though they are from the same task and same type of entry. It will not merge them because the title is different. Very important caveat. We have gotten tripped up on that before. And you can also have a billing rate and cost rate, great for managing how much things cost. If you yourself are always doing the work, these two will be the same. But if you have employees, you'd have how much you're billing a client and how much your employee is costing you to do that work. So that's kind of fun. And you can add timesheets manually or can have it recorded as long as it's over 1 minute. And we have views. Oh, forms. Forms. Forms are nice. I use other things other than forms because getting information out of forms is a little bit cumbersome right now in Plutio, but they are rather functional. They are stable, and you have all your responses right here, which is super duper handy. We are all still waiting for a nice, easy export feature, which we don't have. So we're still waiting for those. But there are a lot of fun things. You can have regular input. You can add actual items. You can sell things through your forms, which is really awesome. So you can productize a form, which is kind of cool. So, hey, everybody, whoever wants to buy the course, go to this form and pay the X amount of dollars and you get the course. Great. You can do that here. And you can add the standard Plutio types of stuff, including this demo thing you see here. That's a template I made of a little block thing to add here, which I don't think we'll get into that in this one. But there are also lots of types of pre-made field types. They're very handy. Some are better than others, I think. Personally, there's name. So they added full name one, which is kind of nice. I wish there were a full name but split first name, last name. Fun times. But there's a lot of cool stuff. Sliders, dates, links, signatures, etc., etc. Items. A lot of there have been a few people who are wondering, so I've added my stuff, where is the payment link? On a form, they submit the form. If there's a payment attached and the summary and all those things, they click submit. Then there's a pop-up with the pay stuff. So I'm hoping that gets integrated in kind of a more seamless step, but that is how it currently is. So if somebody were to view this form and try to pay, they'll submit the form first, pop up from Stripe or PayPal or whatever to pay. So they will get it submitted first before it does the payment part. So don't have to call it a bug or a UX thing they need to fix. So anyway, then there's files. This part is a bit confusing. You have the main stuff being kind of anything and everything for files you can store and share with anybody, files per project, files per person. And if you're wondering, hey, how'd you create those folders? Folders are automatically created for you in this view for projects and people. But inside of a project, you can create your own upload, document, link, or a folder. So you can have folders inside folders, which is really handy. And once it's in here, I just realized I really should have had a file ready to upload. That isn't embarrassing. But yes, once you have some files, one of these probably has a file. Nope, guess not. I'll figure it out later. You can share a link to the file inside of here, though file sharing is not really a thing of Plutio. We do wish it were better. It's still possible, but it does get wonky. And it does have some permissions on the folders, though, again, it is a little precarious, and there's just a lot of menus to go through. Hopefully that gets updated as well. Now, this is where we're essentially going to start from, I believe, because projects are really where you're going to live. So with that, Guy, I'm going to give you a little surprise. Off to you to talk about projects first, and then I'm going to go find the file thing, which is kind of why I want to pass it off to you first.
Yeah, let me grab my screen to be set up. Okay. Hey guys, Thanks for joining. We are live on Facebook as well. So thanks for those who are watching on Facebook if you are. All right. So what are we going to get into?
I
So
think just a project overview
yeah,
first
I'll
and
get into
how things are
projects.
set up.
Yeah, absolutely. What you will see also, if you are tied to other workspaces, you see on the left of my screen where I have multiple logos and brands. Those are different workspaces tied to my login. So if you guys have multiple workspaces, this is where they're going to be listed as well. You'll see my menu looks different than Peter's. It'll look different than anybody else's, but it's fully customizable, like I said. So I've got these little lines are called dividers. So I've got my menu cut up into different sections because I typically live in stuff up here, whereas these things aren't as useful, but I still want to have them. And I've also got a couple of custom links down here that tie to different projects of my business. So we're going to get into projects. And like Peter said, it's where you're going to live typically because it's really the project is like the main, it's a workspace in of itself. So like you can invite clients, it could be private. It's where contracts, proposals, invoices, really everything in Plutio lives and where it's all tied to. So like I said before, the project is kind of like its own little world where you can keep client information and client interactions separate from each other, while you as the owner or contributor can have that higher level overview. Like you see here, I've got a bunch of different projects. Some I'm doing development work for clients, some I'm doing more longer term, not true client work, but it's a lot longer of an engagement. So I have different types of projects. And I've also got internal projects that I'm using for certain functions of my business that I need to track, but keep in a specific space. So we'll get into more of a client facing build inside of a project. But overall, with the screen, if you're unfamiliar with this screen, you can customize this screen any way you'd like necessarily. The way I have it laid out here is on the project itself. I have a custom field of project type. So what I'm doing to get it to look like this is I'm using a group of project type. But if I wanted to, in your business, you could also have it by status, I'm sorry. So if you want to track projects as they're being completed, you can have that layout here. And it ties to your specific project statuses, which are in your settings and projects. You can have all of your various statuses, you can customize them, add them, remove them. You can also colorize them. So if you're visual like me, you like to see things in colors. So you can do that. But the biggest thing to keep in mind with these statuses is they're all either inactive or active. So regardless of what your status is, it either needs to be an active status or an inactive. Whether it's new or paused, it's still an active project. But if it's archived or canceled or whatever, then it needs to tie to that other true status in the app itself. Okay, so that's what these boxes also relate to up here. So I have a bunch of statuses, but in yours, if you have, say, 3 or 4 statuses, they'll show in this with their corresponding titles, colors, and the counts of them. So like I've got 9 projects in these all in various statuses, but what you don't see is all of them, because what I'm doing is also filtering based on certain statuses. Let me take this back here. So I don't want to see projects that are completed or archived, closed, or canceled. It kind of clutters up my screen and I would have a bunch that I don't want to see. So what I've got is this filter set to where, go back, this is being really slow now. Don't slow up on me, Plutio, come on. Well, as soon as this reacts, sorry guys, I don't know why Chrome is being so slow.
This is why I brought coffee.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so where status is or is not, so it's got 2 conditional settings you can have where it is or isn't, and then it's going to pick up all my statuses right here. So filter, and then I can also keep going with some filtering options to where I can have multiple layers of filtering if I want. All right, so that's like the layout of this page. A couple other features that you can have with projects, you can also order them. So if you want to see it based on the due date in either ascending or descending, creation date, things like that. So you can really get customized and really technical with how this view looks. And then you can also view different bits of information of your project in this view as well. So right here, you see I've got status and client members and all these things. But what I can do is if I wanted to add another piece of data, say I wanted to bring in the hourly rate of that project, it will apply to all projects, but you'll still see that piece of data for each. I can remove that. Then the other beautiful part is across Plutio with these different view editors, you can edit them for different roles. So this is the way mine looks as an owner or co-owner. But if I wanted to change this look for, say, the client or for a different contributor role in my business, you can change that look for every role type. So you can get super granular and really customize your experience for both your clients and your users of your organization. So that's pretty much this view in total. You've also got the different types of views, whether it's a list, so more of like a table, not necessarily, and then the actual card view, which I enjoy. Okay, so let's get into the project itself. So we'll go in. Some things to note about the project is it does have its own unique ID. And when we're doing things like automations and integrations and stuff like that, that's where the actual ID of the project is, if you're ever curious. Okay, so some things to note about this. Again, there's a view editor. So on this page, you can customize this view. So everything is customizable down to pretty much a minute level. We have here in this view some things that clients won't see. So clients won't see overview, and they won't see other features that you've disabled based on their role or other contributors in this view. So like I could actually turn off the wiki feature for clients to see in the project if you don't want them to see that. Some higher level things to keep in mind with a project is you can invite people to that project and keep it separate. So if I have a project rolling with a specific client and I want to keep that project only to that client, say I have one or two clients with 3 or 4 projects, they will see on their end their projects, but not the other clients because they're not in that project. So assigning them to this as a client is big. And that's why you can keep everything in here because only they will see it. So not just your tasks and your actual work, but all these other features like your timesheeting, your invoices, all these can be tied and linked and kept in this project as archival records, as time tracking, record keeping, whatever you want to do. The biggest advantage is going to be in your conversations. So you can have all these, and this is what Peter was alluding to. He doesn't like it, but I do find this feature useful for tracking project work and keeping client communications separate between clients specific to a project. You can have more than one, chat channel if you want. So if you're discussing general or just random stuff in this one, but then you have a specific conversation with a different, say, topic or things you want to discuss, you can do that. And then if you also have more than one person in this project, not just say you and the client, say you invite your collaborators, like there needs to be another team member in here, like a contractor or some other person to contribute and bring value to this project, you can then include them in that. So if you need like a group chat or some kind of all around type chat where everybody's communicating, you can do that as well. So that's in conversations. Getting back to the wikis, like Peter mentioned, there's project specific or project tied wikis. So that's where this is, create wiki. The same with files. So if you upload files and house them in the project, not only will you see them in the main files area, but they'll also be obviously in this project. Contracts and proposals, you can either create new from these. I don't think you can create them directly in this screen, but if you're in contracts and you create a new one, you can designate the project that it's tied to right here. So as you're doing this work and you want to keep everything, necessarily everything in this project space, you can do that very easily, and it's all kept in this space. So contracts, the same with proposals and invoices and timesheets. Some other bigger features aside from the overarching parts of a project is the organization level. I explain this to my clients when I'm talking to them on calls or trying to get an idea of how the projects can be organized and used. Is you necessarily have 5 levels of organization inside of Plutio. So you've got the individual projects themselves, that's the higher level. You've got the boards, which are down here. So if you think of a board as kind of like an Excel sheet or like a Google Sheets worksheet, it looks the same from sheet to sheet, but they're just, I mean, they're obviously different, but they serve different purposes. So like project tasks is one, and then I've also typically have an archive on my projects. So you can have different versions of these screens for different uses, purposes, or organizational uses as far as an actual project management tool. So those are boards. So you can have one or multiple. Under the board level, you've got groups. That's what these are. These are called task groups. So in the task group, you then have the task, which are what these are. Under the task group, and I'll go into some more depth about how to rename, how to, recolorize, move all this stuff in a second. You've got the tasks themselves, and then under tasks, you've also got subtasks. So like I said, 5 different layers of organizing your work or your project or whatever you might need to use it for. I've had some clients use a project for a brand of their business. So like they have, instead of different workspaces, they have different brands that they do work for in their company under a project. So there's tons of ways you can use a project to fit a need. Like I've got a small little CRM project that I'm building that I use for the CRM function, not necessarily tracking leads and tracking interest, but it's just a project. So I've got like an active and a archive for those leads, but then I've just got different groups for their statuses. This is a true Kanban layout right here in the card view, similar to things like Trello and those other tools. But you can move it down to a list. That's fine as well. It'll just flip these into the actual list layout. Most people work in card view. That's fine. You can minimize and roll these up if you want, but they are drag and drop as well. So the groups are drag and drop, as well as the tasks. So I can move tasks from one group to another, or up and down inside the group. You can also do it manually by moving. So say this is a task in this project, but I need to either duplicate it or straight move it to a different project completely. I can do that with this move feature. So I can go move, and I can go to a completely different project in my organization. So it'll drop down the menu of projects. Once Plutio responds, okay. So you pick the project, and then you can pick in that project, it'll populate the boards and groups in that project, and then just hit move. Let's see what else. So there's all those. You can obviously see your settings of the group, so you can name it, colorize it. You can even get so cool as other people have done in the group where you can actually drop an image on the top of the group and really make it look fancy and really branded. And I've seen some that have an image, but it shows the different statuses of the group. So like beginning or start, or onboarding all the way through to project completion, or software release, or whatever the status is. They have them really customized to their business. So that's right there. You can create tasks right here as well. So that's the group, and you can actually set permissions as well. So you can set some permissions on the group itself, duplicate and copy. You can also save the group as a template. which will populate in templates, which we'll go over later in the call because that can be a little overwhelming as well. Another thing you can do is also export some of this data as CSV if you'd like. It'll just come down as a CSV file. You can rename the project up here. So right here. And that's necessarily it with projects. Getting into the tasks themselves is really where you can get more detailed in your work, because in the task, there's these different features of the task itself. So you've got the main page, which has like your description. It's got obviously start and do. Explain boards a little better. They like sub projects. Not necessarily. Sub boards are kind of like a way to group tasks in different groups at a higher level.
If I may, I have a way that we can figure this out.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you explain that? Yeah, and then I'll go into tasks because I don't. Yeah.
Thank you. There are many ways to organize this. Of course, in your own business, do what works best for you. Though, the way at least we do things is a project is the project by brand or by company or by the person we're doing work with. And thus, to Chris's question, yes. In our case, our boards become the one unique project we're working on, especially if it's a big project, it goes into there. If it's a teeny small thing, then we kind of glump things into this company's one general board. Though, if you want to use the separate boards, call them tabs, call them sections, whatever you want to do, yes, you can use it by sub-brand, big project for that company, general status of things, priority. There's many ways to do that. Though, yes, you can use it as sub-projects. We usually do. For later, I want to show you how I used to use leads through Plutio. And in our case, we had different sales pipelines, depending if it's an outgoing, just, outreach type thing, if it's an incoming lead, if it was a referral, which was slightly different than a regular incoming thing, or if it was outreach for podcasts, video interviews, that kind of thing. So we had different sales funnels, and we used different boards for that because the columns and statuses would be rather different for each.
Yeah.
So use it however way you want it. You don't have to use the boards other than that one board which something has to live in. Just keep it. If you don't want to use them, you don't have to, but you can.
Another good example that I just thought of too is something like I have a lot of friends that are web developers or full-on like web designers. So those projects typically involve a lot of different parts and pieces, like not just the code or the actual page builds, but they include things like branding and copy and other like automations. So if you've got a big project like, website build, you could put those in like the branding board could be here, and you could still have these same statuses. Like, okay, under branding, we're trying to build this logo. So the logo then goes through its statuses, or building this and that. So you can really keep your bigger or higher level tasks or uses in the board. So like a board for branding. Yeah, exactly. So in your business, if you're doing work for clients and you've got a bigger grouping of tasks, like we say branding or web design or marketing, yeah, you can use those boards for those higher level of organizations. It's just an organizational thing. You could have every single task run through one board. Although if you have a big project, it's going to get huge and you're going to lose track of things really fast. It's just another way to keep things organized in this one project. Okay, so under the groups, you've got tasks. So in the task itself, like I was saying before, you've got description and some of this basic bare bones required information. You can do like repeating. So you can have a task repeat on a certain interval if you'd like. You can also assign following. Yeah, absolutely, Chris. You can assign followers to it. So people that'll get notifications or things in their workspace and in their account when actions happen. It lists created and completed, dates and times as well, or sorry, just dates, not times. Another cool thing is it's got commenting. So if you want to start some kind of small thread or some kind of really specific conversation on this task, you can do that here. And something throughout Plutio with its inboxing and messaging setup is you've got tagging. So you can tag using the @ symbol. If there's a person in this project that you want to tag in to get them notified, like, hey, Jesus, or hey, me, I want to do this thing or this, like notify them of that, it'll you can do that. And it also supports a lot of different text types. So when you see this plus icon, you can drop in all these different things and add in all this kind of media or input types into this box. Subtasking is that final level or the smallest, most granular level of organization. Subtasking is for, I don't know, something like a logo design, right? So you need to design a logo. That's a good task to have, but I need a bunch of other inputs or other smaller things to accomplish to mark that task as complete. So, get with, I don't know, a color team or some kind of task that, you need to have other smaller steps that tie to that larger step. So, consult with client could be a subtask, or, do all these other smaller steps that then pertain to its completion. One thing to keep in mind is if you do a subtask, what will happen is you'll get this progress bar here. And as you complete or leave tasks open or uncompleted, it'll show progress in this automatically. So as you start adding subtasks to this main task, it'll show that in its completion. So if I go back to subtasks and complete this, it'll show 100% as this task is completed with its subtasks being completed. And then boom, the task is complete. Under that, you've also got file attachments. You can go attach a file to a task, which is pretty cool. You can also do time sheeting in the task itself. So if you want to track time, yes, exactly. Thanks, Peter. So if you want to track time necessary to a task, you can do that as well. One thing to also note in the subtask, which is the level I'm at right now, you also have the same layout, look, and feel of these fields in the subtask, as well as commenting and files and time sheeting. You just can't put subtasks on a subtask. That's like, super deep, and you don't want to go that far. So those are the main features of a task. I'm going to get rid of these ones. I don't need them. And that's really it when it comes to projects. That's all the overarching big details of a task, or I'm sorry, of a project. Getting in depth with the project itself, status is up here, these actions. You can set the different colors or the icons. You can even set this project itself as a template if you want. You can duplicate it and set your permissions. So if you have a project that just that project itself needs specific permissions, you can do that there, or share it if you want to. So you can share the task boards. Maybe you have, like what Plutio does with their roadmap, they have a project that they have on their Plutio account that is their roadmap, but they make it shareable to anybody on the site or the group or whoever to view it. So they've made it shareable. So they've made a project shareable, basically, is what Plutio did. There's a per account setting. Yeah, okay. Let's see, what else can we get into with projects? That's really it as far as the overarching features in a somewhat of a 101 context. You can automate and bring in whatever you need to in this space. You can automate the heck out of this thing. There's a lot you can do with the actual project itself. I'm trying to think, Peter, what other 101 in like the 101 context of this webinar could I discuss with projects?
Yeah, so I'll show them a
I
demo
didn't want
leads
to go
board.
into custom fields and templates yet, because that can be kind of overwhelming right now. Maybe in a little while, but not right at the moment.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I want to show them a leads board, give them an example of that, show them how custom fields can look. We're not going to get into setting all that up, but I want to show them that a little bit. And then before that, though, and I'm going to butcher people's names. I'm the worst person with names. Miriam, I hope I pronounced your name right. They asked, how do we set rates for contractors and the like? So first, I got to share my screen. That would kind of help. Share screen, click. All right. So we have, for folks, if you go into your contacts, then pick a person. Do I have a, yeah, there you go. Here's my demo person. You would go into them here. You would go and edit profile, and you would edit their cost rate and their billing rate here. You should probably just leave that as blank. It'll probably zero itself out like that. And their cost rate, how much they cost you to be employing them per hour. So it's not per month or per whatnot, it's per hour. So just calculate their hour, if they're a salary or monthly pay, just calculate their hourly rate, stick it in here, and just go with that. Billing rate, unless there's for some reason, a specific billing rate for this specific person, I would leave this blank, because if you put something here, it will override any project's billing rate. To give you an example, we bill $150 an hour, at least this year. Next year, I'm pretty sure we're updating that just because it's not enough and we're getting too busy. So it's kind of how we keep less busy, increase our rates. But anywho, so we set those rates per project, and thus everybody's billing rate is zeroed out, just empty. And then the project rate gets filled in here automagically. Though for my employees, I put their cost rate, how much per hour they cost me, or I pay them, however way you want to word that, to be politically correct. You just put that in there and do that. But you can have different rates for different types of work. So if you have a certain rate for copywriting versus web development versus a web developer just doing a quick QA versus the web developer being knee-deep in code and swimming in that code all day and night, you can have different rates for a lot of this stuff. That would go right here. They're timesheet categories. Timesheet categories are set up in settings. I'm not going to go over that right now, but once you set those up, you can pick one here, and it pre-fills them in by default. And then you can customize it for this specific person, for this specific thing they'll do. You can change that. You can bill them differently or a different cost rate. You can do that. So that's there. Guy, if you could point them to the settings page for the timesheet categories, that'd be awesome. Now, while in the chat at least, I did want to show y'all what leads look like. Lead management in Plutio, because it is not a CRM, you have to do things a little bit manually. What we did back in the day is we had a leads board. Well, a leads project, and inside of there we had boards per funnel, such as outbound and inbound. And I was mucking about with here, showing people some stuff, so don't mind all those extras. And oh, if you're wondering where this icon came from, that's just a keyboard emoji from Mac. That's all it is. It's an ASCII emoji. And you can add those there. But anywho, a leads board project is as simple Kanban thing. New, in progress, won, lost, and you can customize it however you want, such as new, contact proposal, follow up soon, won, not right now, lost, etc., etc. Whatever your sales pipeline is, just create your groups, the columns for those things, and then you can click and drag an item across wherever it may be. Inside of each lead item, I would highly recommend having their basic information, any form information they filled out, and questions. Here's a little quick tip. Questions you want to ask them on the lead call. Assuming you have lead calls or replies, put things here that you have to do for yourself, because nobody's going to see this except you and your sales staff. So put your questions and things to do here. And then from there, my favorite part, this is filled with junk, but let's take a quick look at it. So here's this one. Here's this miscellaneous lead. Let's actually complete it. So the company named company, and they are a web, and they want a web development project from us, whatever, carpet cleaning, pick one. So we filled out their information, what information we have, what they're looking for, what questions we want to ask them, and then we start adding custom fields to help us quickly and easily see and sort what's going on. What we use this for eventually, what we really use this for in our other systems is we pull this data via APIs into a sales dashboard, and we get analytics based upon all this information. What's their budget range for a project? So yes, I have it copied here from the forms they filled out and things we talked to, though these custom fields help us give a quick overview right here in the board in this quick view, what's going on, what the quick information are, and because we can color code certain custom fields, some things can really pop out, such as, hey, this is a super duper crazy urgent project, which probably means it's easier to sell or we can charge more for it. So custom fields, once you get into them, are really, really handy because not only can you run specific automations based on these custom fields, they can give you a quick overview of what's going on and notify folks of what things are. I didn't add a custom field for progress, and I really should have. Though if you use your imaginations and assume that instead of urgency, this says progress or status, we could say that status is client needs to reply. We do actually have one like that. Client needs to reply. We have a status for QA in progress. We have a status for need more information and stuff like that. In our leads, generally we've got information for budget ranges, timeframes, type of project, where the lead came from, if it was referred by somebody, and a few other things. We also do make very good use of subtasks in pretty much every single task template and thing we do in Plutio, because it helps us organize things rather nicely. For example, with leads, we had all our sales steps. So here are our sales stages, sales pipeline stages. Is it a new lead? Is it in progress? Doing a proposal, et cetera, et cetera. Though the steps somebody needs to take this lead from step A to step B are all our subtasks. So we entered in their information. We put in their contact information, scheduled a call, very important. We sent them a thank you message. We had our first call. We can add information. Oh, I think we misplaced Guy. Oh, going on. Oh, Guy's back. Hey, Guy. Anyway, then did we write the proposal? Did we walk through in the proposal? So on and so forth. We put all our actual steps we have to do in here. And then once it moves, the status of this lead moves along, then we just move it along from whatever it may be. And whether it is won or lost, it doesn't matter, because then we just mark it as completed. It kind of, for those of you who have used Salesforce, HubSpot, or any CRM tool, closed won, closed lost. So clicking done would be closed and then won or lost. For those of you who hate columns, you can have your sales pipeline very simply in a custom field called pipeline or pipeline status or pipeline step. Whatever floats your boat, and I mean that in a loving way. Whatever works for you, be it custom fields, columns, groups, boards, whatever it is that works for you, just go implement it and run with that system. And I think that's what I wanted to show for now. Guy, how are we doing on time?
Oh, we're good. We're at about 52 minutes, so we've got less than 45 left, so almost half an hour, a little bit more than half an hour left.
Okay, cool. What I wanted to show y'all is from our actual Plutio thing. This is my demo thing, so don't mind the smaller text. It's going to be real quick. So here's how my menu looks. Because the menu is customizable and you can add your own icons, I had my design team mock up our own custom icons. So I had our own custom.
You're logged in as a client, right?
Oh, this is me as an admin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is my own actual Plutio thing on my own custom domain. And so I picked a random project that I'm not really working on here, but I have my custom fields as well, or custom project statuses. By the way, if you're not using custom project statuses, you should. They make it so easy to organize things. Are they retainer client? Are they in progress? Is this project stalled? Wonderful use of project statuses, and they're customizable. So I want to show you that. And then the other thing I want to show you is Guy was talking about you can have colors and icons and all these things for your project. So here's my template. I have a very bad name for it. I got to still update ours internally. But I mean my design team, mocked up some graphics, and we have them for our columns. We added colors for our statuses. Here's our kickoff phase. Here's our production phase. Here's our internal stuff that client will never ever see phase. Handoff phase. Clink. For me, it's less clink, more sip more coffee, because then there's the next project. Yay. Always busy. Anywho, this is how we actually organize all of our web dev projects. We go by phases, general, kind of like with sales pipeline phase. So pipeline for a project. We organize it by weeks. Yes, these things get moved around. This is just a general template. And we make heavy use of templates in everything we do. For example, here's our setup for a general site foundation once we have the design. Design, by the way, development doesn't start until design is completely done and handed off. Very important tip. Anywho, then are all these things coded in? Did we set up all these various items? Store information here where possible. We have tasks, unique tasks for setting up individual pages, and so on and so forth. All of this is templatable, organizable, settable, and processable. Is that a word? Either way, templates are the thing in Plutio that are going to make your life ridiculously easy. Oh, actually, let me show you one other thing. So let me go to a miscellaneous project. No, not this window. So this is a random project that I'm trying to make. I'm trying to make a video planner. But anywho, so I have a template called Nerd Support. I love my Nerd Support.
Everybody notice how he did that when he typed in that create a task?
Yes, thank you. I do it so often I completely forgot. To use a task template in your project, click up into that little bubble top area thing. What's this one called? /? That one, the slanty line thing. Mm-hmm. It pulls up this little mini pop-up modal called template. You can press enter or you can click on it. It will show you all the templates for tasks you have available. I have all these. Do I use all of them? No, but we use a whole bunch of them. And then once you press enter, after selecting one, you'll be able to, you can break things. Exponential higher. Anywho, it'll create the task here. Somebody was asking if you can set these things at the top or bottom when there's a new one. Yes, that is a setting in your settings. You can create a new task and it'll show up either at the top or the bottom of your list, depending on that setting. For us, and here's my use of general custom fields: priority, progress, client approval, who is it assigned to, start date, end date, basic information, and subtasks to help us follow along in every single support ticket that comes in. And if you're wondering, well, that looks like a lot of work to create that for every single ticket, I almost never create this manually. This is all done by automations. We have a ticketing system. We use Freshdesk. That comes into our system. It creates one of these things for us. Same thing from various forms. From our lead forms, we do have a lead type template that gets generated through automations. Because we're nerds, we custom coded everything. But you can use Zapier, so many similar names. Thank you. There's Zapier, Integromat, Integrately, whatever. There's that. You see, I'm horrible with words and names. But there's so many. We, for example, use N8N and Pipe Dream, which is a fun one, as well as actual full custom code for a whole bunch of things. That's us. We're nerds, so we can. Though all those things are doable to automate. From a ticket being created, it goes into your system as a task. We have a to delegate in our internal. We have a project called internal projects, or there's internal operations. From there, there's a board called to delegate. From there, the project manager or the team leaders move those tasks into the appropriate project. We are creating our own paths and our automations to automate that, so they have a little bit less work, but one thing at a time. And from there, they get put into here. So we pretty much, while yes, we can use our templates manually, we've automated all of that. Somebody was asking about contracts. Yes, you can also automate how like a proposal gets created into a contract, because you can't have a proposal template, which includes a contract template, which is connected to an invoice template. And so once somebody, and all this could be pre-made initially, so all you do is write up your proposal, select the templates while creating all of this stuff, and off you go. It's all done. Just add in your new content, click send, and all of it's ready for you. If the longest time I spend on proposal is maybe an hour, but that's inside of the content. And I'm not doing any design things. I'm not doing setup. I select the template for my proposal. Well, let me show you real quick. I go here. I select the template. Let that load. This particular template doesn't really have much. I think I copied this one from the stuff, from the template library. There's a Plutio template library, for those of you who don't know. Does it have the latest, greatest in there? Yeah, some are pretty good, some not. So, but pick whatever works for you. This is one of them, I believe. It came with all the stuff pre-made. You can customize this template as much as you'd want. Remove stuff, add stuff. And what I do, I have my own template set up, customized by my devs and my design team. I just use the template when generating things, just like it had here. For me, these are, though, automatically selected. And I have my own templates for invoices and all this stuff automatically all set up for me. So all I do, I go in, I change informations, I customize this stuff, and then I go, where's it? Send proposal. And that's it. That's all I do. I don't spend any time mucking about with design or settings or anything. It's all done for me with templates. Same with tasks and, well, pretty much everything that I can. So there's that one. How do you message a client to tell them that the ticket is finished? Oh, Ashton. I'm horrible with words. Automations. I have custom fields that link a Freshdesk ticket to a Plutio task. If something changes in either or, there's a notification and automation that syncs the two up, be it with notes, custom fields, updates, comments, closing, opening tickets based on what it is. So hooray for automations. And yes, we made those because we're nerds and it took a little while. But yeah.
Miriam also asked if you teach some of that stuff in your course.
It will be in the course. Yes. Speaking of course, there's a fancy button here in big marker. There is. Ooh, check it out. Check it out. Okay. Boom. Oh, an offer for everybody. Yes, you can get on the wait list. God, I'm so nerdy. So yes, that's a little fun feature. That's what I was trying to tell you, Guy, that hey, you have there's an offer thing I was going to set up for you, but completely forgot. Feels so bad. But yeah, there's a whole offer button to do things like that. Anywho, does Pabbly work with Plutio? I think.
I can answer that. Hey, Larry. So Pabbly works well with Plutio. There's another guy in the community. His name is Hermes or Hermes. I forget the pronunciation. I'm horrible with names as well. Look him up in the community. He does a lot of work with Pabbly. I do a lot of work with Integromat. But if you look him up in the community, he does a lot of stuff with Pabbly as well in Plutio. So he'd be a really good contact for you to have with using Pabbly. You can use it in there. There's a lot of pre-built modules. It connects. I haven't been in there in a couple months, but it does connect via webhook, which is instant, and it's actually a really good way to do it. And I believe they've also dropped a custom API call module or action in Pabbly to where you can run API calls easier now instead of developing all the authentication and all that stuff.
I think somebody just mentioned that a few days ago.
So check that out. Talk with Hermes if you can and get some info from him. I don't have as much experience with Pabbly. I can use it and I can find my way around pretty well, but I don't have as much experience with it that he does, but I'm mostly with Integromat and Zapier. But it does work well with it. Most of them do.
Now, automations reminds me of something. I know we're not going to get into automations on this call. A few things to note. If you...
There are some things I'd like to touch on, though, if we can.
Yeah. So actually, I can stop sharing my screen because I don't think I need it.
No problem. Thanks, Saeed.
Figure it out. Yeah, I have a different view than him. I'll just do this. Haha, problem solved. Anywho, in terms of automations, bunch of people were asking, hey, can I connect Plutio to my accounting invoicing software? Yes, you can. There's no direct connections, but that is what all those things, Zapier, Integromat, Integrately, Pebble, and again, pick one. As long as that automation system has that integration, yes, you will though have to then just make sure it triggers either way correctly and gets the information through. So yes, it is definitely possible. If Xero works with Zapier or any of those things, you can definitely connect Xero, QuickBooks, Wave. I don't,
Yep.
Wave is a weird one. I don't honestly know what they're doing with their API. But as long as there's an API and there's a connection in that automation system, yes, it is doable. You'll just have to actually do the connecting pieces, which gets really fiddly. And since we're in automations, Guy, you want to talk about automations?
I will. I'm not going to go too far in depth because, again, this is a 101 type context. But the thing I will show you guys on how to get started in doing all of that, I'm going to share my screen again, is inside of Plutio. This is where you have to start for any type of automation that you're going to do, whether it's in a pre-built tool like Integromat or Zapier, or even when Peter and his team built stuff with N8N, or if there's things that are on a server or running things in Lambda or some other crazy setup you might have, you have to start it in Plutio with the API manager settings. This is a pretty big feature set that I particularly enjoy as an automator and workflow developer. It's in the bottom of your settings down here. What you can do with this is develop different connections and different types of uses for this Plutio app's API, basically. And you can connect it to all those pre-built tools like Zapier and Integromat, Integrately, Pably, all the hundreds of them that are out there. You can also connect it to anything that can accept a API secret and client ID to connect to just the API, period. There's some things that I've been testing out to connect Plutio via API to like Power BI or to Tableau or to some data tool that I can bring in data from the tool and visualize it in that kind of graphical or that kind of visualization tool. So if you can connect to it with an API connector with nearly any tool, then you can use this setting and use Plutio for that. So it's very robust and very flexible to a lot of different use cases. Okay, so in this setting, I've got a bunch, as you can see, but the beauty of this feature in this tool is you can have obviously different ones, but you can specify what their use is. I have a specific naming convention that I follow because I've got so many out there. But if you look into one of these, what you'll see, and keep in mind this is a pre-built or a ready-to-go connection that I'm using in places. But what you'll see before you create it is the name, the API version, which you should be on 1.9 for most everybody. You can select the workspace that this connection ties to, so you can have different workspaces if you want. You don't have to, but you can. You can also have different webhooks that come in here. So this is a little bit more of the technical stuff that I don't want to get too far in the weeds with because I could talk for days and hours, but and it's a little confusing to folks that are new to it. But the biggest feature of this this built feature in Plutio is you can actually specify your API endpoints that either the automation that this is talking to or the webhook picks up on. And that's huge. Other tools like ClickUp or Asana, they have an API key that you can use and integrate with your tools, but none of them give you this amount of granularity and flexibility with the API connection. Because with a lot of these that I have going, I'm only picking up on a specific action inside of my tool. So like this one, for example, uses the endpoint, which are what these are, a little bit of education for you guys, an API endpoint that's contract.edit. So what that's doing is every time there's a contract that's edited, it's firing to this webhook every time, but only for that action, not every single one of these. So you can really customize not only the connections, but make it really flexible, and just pick out what you need or don't need. Um, there's also obviously ones where you can set the whole list to be in that connection or that webhook, which is what I use to actually perform actions in my tool. But when it comes to an automation triggering from a specific event, this is a very flexible and very awesome feature that not a lot of tools out there have. I haven't seen others that give you this amount of um, flexibility or granularity with the API connection. And you can have more than one. So you can have a bunch of these connections for a lot of things, and you can have more than one webhook URL. So if you want to send this data to both, say, Zapier or Integromat or both or Pabbly, you can send it to multiple places. So you could even tie this into like some kind of custom app or some kind of crazy place somewhere else that accepts webhook data to basically post to. So that's how you even get started using Zapier or Integromat. Is you would need to, or any of them, they require not only Integromat will have you generate this inside of Integromat, but Zapier I don't think needs the webhook. But what they'll have you do is use this OAuth2 method with the client ID and secret. You'll get those two and drop them into the authentication screen when you get there. And then you're up and running with them. So that's how you can get started with automations, is go into API Manager, create a connection, and then start diving into it. Now, if you're really savvy and really want to go above and beyond the pre-built stuff, you can actually go to the docs.plutio.com and look into their API documentation, which, if you're familiar with APIs, this is a RESTful interface, and you can dive into their docs and start building with their API with whatever you want to do. I use it quite frequently myself because it affords a lot more flexibility with the actions you can take, not just the given or the pre-built actions. Like if you were to go into Zapier or Integromat, they give you a list of actions that you can take because they've already pre-built the modules using this API documentation and your authentication. But you can say in Integromat, and I like Integromat for that purpose, because you can run API calls very fast and very easily using their pre-built module. Whereas other ones, you'll have to, like in Zapier, you either have to build the call in Java or Python from scratch, or in Pabbly, you can run that. I think they have a container for it. I'm not sure. But some of the other tools may require you to do either a bit more hard coding or actual development to get it up and running. But yeah, so these are the API documentation. You can either check this out in curl or Node or PHP, whichever language you want to use. They do give you the previous versions of the API, but I would highly recommend staying in the most current with whatever you're doing. So that's kind of an overview of some things in some parts of the automation topic, because yeah, you can automate dang near anything in Plutio, either from a trigger or performing an action. There's one automation that I have that as soon as a project is created in my account, it creates a Zoom link and adds that link to the project. It takes 2 steps from the trigger, but it's just a simple automation I built that does a small action that I want to have on my projects, but I use both Integromat and the Plutio API to accomplish that. So you could talk for days and hours and months even on automation, because there's an infinite amount of possibilities that you can do with it, which is why I don't want to go too far in depth with this. But for the time being, when it comes to Plutio itself, there is no internal automation tool in Plutio, whereas Asana, I think, has it. ClickUp, I think, might have it, but Monday has it, and some other tools have internal automations that it'll pick up on actions in itself and do actions. Plutio doesn't have that, except for when you're creating a proposal or signing one, you can auto create an invoice or a project or both. That's like the only automated thing, as well as like email sends and invites. When you send or invite somebody, it'll send that email to them. There are some basic automation functions, but it's not like when a project's completed, do this complex workflow. It doesn't have that in here yet, but they are working on it. It is on their roadmap. So for the time being, we have to use things like Integromat and Zapier to talk from Plutio to Plutio. We have to use it as the middleware.
Yep.
So that's kind of an overview of Plutio itself when it comes to automations. Here's where you get started again as API manager, create a connection, and start doing what you want to do. But we will have a separate course webinar or as part of the series of automations where we'll bring in some other folks that touch Pabbly, maybe some Zapier folks, and actually hit on that topic as a whole, and even possibly do some dev work, bring in some use cases, and do some builds live with the folks. So if you want to get into that, let us know. And when we create that series, we'll obviously let you guys know and sign up for it.
Yep. I think we've covered most of the basics. And
yes.
For now, I think we have a few minutes left. We can do a mini Q&A.
Mobile apps at all?
Okay, mobile apps. So
yeah,
mobile apps.
You can interface with Plutio in a lot of ways.
Yes, there are mobile apps. I didn't connect my phone to the screen, but Plutio, so I'll just show you by holding it up to the camera. If I can find it on my phone. There we go. There is a Plutio. Okay, too much glare. Good enough, right? It's loading. There we go. Plutio mobile app. It is pretty decent, though. It is not perfect. People have reported issues from the mobile apps, but they do work rather well, especially on the mobile one. I don't think I can show this too closely, but there is a small little hamburger menu floating around, which is movable. In my case, it is right about here. You click that, that opens up the Plutio menu, and that's where you can start navigating and start inside of things, changing between the companies I'm part of, projects, tasks, invoices. I can do everything you can do in the web interface. You can do through mobile or tablet. There are apps for iOS, Android, tablets of both. And there is also a desktop app.
Yep.
On a quick note, we do not recommend the desktop app. People have reported a whole bunch, and Leo even says, go use the website instead. So to each their own, though. So you could also, on a quick side note, there are a few wrapper apps that turn a website into an app. You could use those. To each their own. I also don't recommend those. What I recommend generally is just have it running in a tab, pin the tab, pop it out into a separate window. It seems to work the best. The actual mobile apps are all right. It does work better, at least for me, on a tablet than on a phone, just because of screen size. I hope eventually there's some stuff that gets updated eventually. One day.
But
we'll see.
Use it on my phone quite frequently. A lot of my core or critical apps for my business I take on my phone, and I won't pick up an app unless they have a mobile version of it, typically, if it's core critical or some kind of major thing that I need. I use it quite often, and like you said, the only bigger downside is like the size constraint. So if you're in like a project, you have to scroll quite far to get to some things. So the bigger looking objects like a task or something can be a little odd as far as the sizing, but it reacts pretty well to screen size. And the frames that are in it actually aren't bad either. So the UI of it inside of the iOS app isn't bad at all. But it's good to get. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. You just have to sign into it.
Oh, speaking of
workspaces too. Sorry.
Yeah. So speaking, no, it's all good. A whole bunch of people have asked, hey, if we get white label in Plutio, which is $9 a month? Don't quote me on that number.
Yeah, if you
get white label, that does not white label the app. You will still have to use the Plutio official app. That is not a limitation of Plutio. That is an Android and an iOS limitation. If you want your own app, you will have to build your own or compile your own and all those things. It's just a limitation of those operating systems or those marketplaces, not of Plutio. Would be great. Maybe they can. I did see, for example, a LearnDash and WordPress customized app. They charge for running that app for you because then they have to build, customize, and compile and submit to the App Store their own app, which is with your customizations and branding. They charge, I think, $500 a month for that per month. So
Wow.
if you want your own app, I can definitely write you one. I can personally write you one. My team can write you one. A lot of people can write you one. You will have to pay for that. Plutio is just not going to do that for you because then they literally have to submit an application for your brand to the App Store. And that has to be approved, go through the whole process, blah, 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 blah. It's not fun. So there's that. In terms of customizations, if you get white label, you get custom emails, which is really nice. I love those. People can also reply to a custom email inbox. You get custom colors, custom subdomain, which is very nice and handy. I love that. Some people don't care. You don't have to get white label, though Plutio's name is going to be on everything if you do. One thing that I will note, though, without white label, currently, and people consider this a bug, I consider this a thing they really should get in. But if there's an email notification, it says it's an notification from Plutio instead of from you, powered by Plutio or something. That is, I'm just going to call it a bug. It's not a bug. This is how it was made. They just haven't fixed that yet. Either way, we do in general recommend white label for most people. You don't have to. Kind of like if you use Asana, you can't. Can you white label Asana?
I have no idea.
I don't know either. But let's just say you can't, just for the sake of conversation. Let's say you can't. It'll just be like, oh yeah, I know. As a company, we use Asana. Oh, okay. Clients generally do not care what system you're using. Most people also probably won't go into your system. In our particular case, we happen to go towards medium-sized-ish companies and larger. They generally have their own stuff already. Rarely do our clients go into our Plutio. Some do. Some only want access for some quick information and access to time logs, timesheets, invoice type things. Other than that, they don't care. But we do still recommend white label. It just looks rather nice. You get a few extra options, and especially the emails. I love the email customization. Well, the white labeling of the emails. We still have a limit on what we can customize in emails because they didn't code any of those features yet. Hopefully soon. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Okay, what else can we talk about in the few minutes we have left? Or should we just open up the floor?
One thing I forgot to bring up or have brought up is on dashboards. Another feature that's not really talked about much, and I don't have a direct use for it, although I've tried playing with it, is if you're creating a chart or a metric type widget on the dashboard, you can actually connect to an API outside of Plutio and have it push data to that dashboard. So if you have a data source that you want to get data in from, say, a whole other tool or some kind of other place, and you want to say, I want to display a chart of that data in my Plutio account, you can do that so long as that data source can post to a webhook that Plutio gives you when you're creating that connection. So it's a kind of an unknown feature, like not many people use it. I don't see it very often in the group, but you can do that when you're creating a dashboard, just to put it out there in the group or whoever's still watching or listening. So if you're tech savvy or have people that you can get access to do that, that's actually a really cool feature. So you can bring
tech savvy people like Guy, myself, and other Plutio experts.
Like I said, I don't have other systems that I want to bring into it, but if I did, I'd love to explore that because that looks really cool.
To answer Larry's question and then Ashton's, you do not have to create a new subdomain for white label email. Though we do, at least I generally recommend you do. Why? Because then it kind of wraps it around. Our emails from Plutio come from hello@chykalophia.com. So there is no white label, there's no subdomain for the from address, but the reply to, yes, that one you will have to get a new subdomain. What's less subdomain, more just an entry in your DNS for the reply to, not the from field. For Ashton's,
do you mean, how do we recommend we message clients? Do you mean like through email, or how would you contact the client is the question? To do it through Plutio, they need to be an active client in your account, or with some permission, they need to be in your account somehow.
Yeah, they could, if they're in your Plutio, you can message them via inbox or tag them in a comment. We have one particular client who actually does use our Plutio account. I'm like, okay. So for them, we always ping them in, I just call it pinging somebody. We tag them, the @ symbol them, and their name in the task comments and tell them, hey, we updated this project, here's the feedback, here's the quick link, here's the answer to the question you've asked. So we put that in the task comments. For support tickets, I know you asked that a little bit earlier. Support tickets, we don't message people through Plutio because we do have a dedicated support system for basically omni-channel, multi-channel communications for actual support tickets. So those all go out through our Freshdesk and a few other things. But other than support tickets, like an active project type thing, that's all inside of Plutio and generally between the clients, teammates, and us with comments for updates, feedback requests, notifications, and stuff like that.
So Saeed, there's no way to outbound a message from Plutio unless you're talking to another Plutio user. So you can't draft an email inside of Plutio and send it to any email address.
That's not a feature.
Now, if they email you at your email address, say you sent a proposal to them and it comes to your email and you have those settings set up in Plutio and they reply to you with your reply domain set up, yes, you can converse in that regard, but you have to A, use white label, and B, get your email settings specified to your service and put on that reply to domain settings in Plutio and an MX record on your DNS server.
And since we're on the topic of emails and all that stuff, Larry, for the reply to, yes, you need a custom subdomain. For sending emails, if you connect some sort of external email tool, please, oh, by the way, please, people, do not use Gmail for transactional email. You can use Gmail. Gmail doesn't like it. It has very low sending rates. And if you have an agency like us, you will hit that limit within about 5 minutes. So don't use it. Use something like SendGrid, Sendin. I don't recommend Sendinblue anymore. They really annoyed me lately. Mailgun, MailChimp's Mandrop, they formerly called it Mandrop. Now it's part of MailChimp, and their pricing sucks. So I don't recommend them either just because of pricing. AWS S3, heck of a lot of other transactional email tools. Either way, you connect that up, and then you just set the from, and that's going to send your proposals from your email address. Our proposals, when sent through Plutio, come from hello@chykalophia.com. All of our emails, all the transactional emails, notification emails, order receipts, invoice, paid receipts, all that stuff from all of our systems all go through SendGrid. We have that authenticated setup and logged all in SendGrid. Then I know anything and everything. The only emails that do not go through SendGrid for us are the regular, hey guy, let's go meet for coffee. Hey, here's a new lead. Let's go quick chat. Let's set up what time we're talking together. That's regular conversation things that goes through regular email. In our case, Google Workspace email. Everything else, anything you can consider transactional email, that's not a marketing email, goes through SendGrid. All our marketing emails go through the various marketing software stuffs that we have. And in this case, a proposal sent is a transactional email because it's requested by a user and is automated. That's okay to send via transactional service. We use SendGrid, and we just sent the two. And I'll show you guys really quick, and then we are...
You don't have to use white label email, by the way. So you can actually send a proposal to a client by default in Plutio. What we're talking about is more custom, like branded to your business, in your environment, in your tech stack. You can send you can send content, contracts, proposals, invoices to clients in Plutio by default, just by using the send proposal or send whatever option. It'll come from Plutio email addresses. It'll come from, I think, a no reply or some kind of not listener, like an automated message. But yes, you can send them to an email address so long as the client is in your account and you have that email address.
Yep. If you have, this is my demo account, so it's not set up for white label yet. And once I get to that part of the creating those videos on the course, then I'll have this here. But if you don't have it, you cannot set any of those settings that we didn't say if you don't get white label. Now, if I go into my actual company settings, email, we use SendGrid. Every single email from Plutio is going to be sent from there. Sender name. You can customize all this. And the API key and the password is, of course, the password. I'm not going to see that one. And in SendGrid, this is literally the username you use, just so you know. And the reply to domain, this is the custom domain set up. It's an MX record. You can see the instructions to set it up here. And that'll be the reply to. That's not what it's sent from. This is not what gets tagged in the email settings if somebody wants to check the log. This is if somebody clicks reply to your email, it will be sent to this domain and trackable by Plutio at that point for the reply. That's all this is. Joris, you were wondering what's wrong with Gmail. Problem with Gmail, it has a very small sending limit. I believe by default it is 50 emails per hour. So should you end up somehow sending 50 emails within 1 hour, you will not be able to send one single message more for that. I don't know if it's a rolling 1 hour though. But either way, I'm just going to probably call it a rolling 1 hour time frame. You will not be able to send more emails. That includes your general corporate email. So let's take a quick example. You're working on a project with 10 other people, 5 of your own teammates, 5 client employees on one task. You send a notification that in the comment on the task that, hey, this task is done. Everybody go take a look. That is 10 emails being sent out. Now, let's say you have 10 tasks you comment on, 10 people on each one. That is 100 notifications that are going to go out. You've just run into the Gmail email sending limit within, 3 minutes? With something like SendGrid, I can send 50,000 emails a second. On my account, I can't. I don't send that many, but you can send a heck of a lot of emails. My current limit, I think, is several thousand per hour, but I don't get there. I think on average, during the workday, we probably get up to between 500-ish, 800 things through SendGrid per hour, and that's all transactional stuff. So that's that one. If you do not want to use something like SendGrid, and I highly recommend you do because it is so cheap. The starter plan is $10 a month, something like that. $10 a month. There's others that have slightly different pricings. But if you don't want to use one of those, you can use the better one is the Microsoft Office 365. Their email actually is reasonably okay for transactional email because their limits are far higher. I believe it's 500 emails per hour, and they have some slightly different rules about that. So don't use Gmail only because they are not happy. They don't want to support transactional email. They specifically have those limits very low for those reasons. Office 365 is far better, even better than all of those for super cheap. As Chris says, it's $15 a month for SendGrid. I highly recommend it. It's so well worth the money, especially if you got white label. It brands your things nicely. You have email tracking because Plutio does not have email tracking. SendGrid will have tracking or any of those others. SendGrid, Mailgun, Mail-in-Blue. Okay, I've already run out of ideas. But those things, they all have logging. You'll be able to see when it was sent, what's delivered, what was the content of that email, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So food for thought. Ooh, problem with Send-in-Blue. Their system for your sending quota is ridiculous. We had a few projects where we were stuck at 5 emails an hour. We had 0 errors. We had 0 spam notifications. We were fully authenticated. Their annoying system would not let us, I don't know. They just frustrated me on far too many projects. And yes, Victor, Amazon AWS SES is freaking awesome, ridiculously cheap, also the most cumbersome to set up. This is why I generally don't recommend it, but it works very, very well. And they also don't have as good of interfaces nor logging as a lot of those other systems do, but it is the most cost-effective and generally the most powerful, especially if you're a nerd. So with that said, I believe we are officially out of time. I don't think we have any more questions. If you do have other questions, toss them in Plutio. The next course or series, video, webinar, whatever, in this series will probably be on automation, as Guy mentioned. We don't know yet. We're kind of planning these out.
We'll probably create a post or something asking for input on the next session. I'm not sure. But we may, if we're up to it, we may put this on a recurring schedule. So if y'all didn't capture enough information or want to attend the next one, our plan is to have this not quite frequently, but fairly frequently. That way new users and Plutio folks can get in and experience the same things we did, ask the same questions for an hour and a half, and then it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
this
Now, if you
session.
have specific nerdy questions, Guy doesn't do setup help, but if you have automation questions, process questions, and what else do you do as a Plutio expert? I know you focus on process and automations.
API integration. I mean, I do help with account stuff, account specific. I just won't sit down and do the work and develop your templates and your content and build roles and all that stuff. But general tips and help and hey, how do I do this? How do I navigate this? Where's this setting? Stuff like that, or general over the shoulder type work I can do as well. I just don't have a lot of time typically day to day, week to week to do a lot of that kind of work.
Yeah. So if you have questions like those, feel free to ask Guy. He's a Plutio expert. You can find him on the Plutio experts, so plutio.com/experts. You'll find him and myself. I focus on agencies and medium-sized companies where we do some of the account setup, templating, structuring, automations, general integration, stuff like Salesforce, HubSpot. So I do those integrations as well. I'm a bit more of a generalist than Guy, but we do focus on agencies and working with teams. So that's it for today's. I have YouTube and Facebook stuffs, though I haven't posted either in a while, except doggy photos. So if you want to see photos of my dog snoring and then waking himself up with a fart, I guess you can go see that on my Facebook. But company-wise, we as a company do post a decent amount. Our YouTube has been lacking because we've just been so busy with the pandemic. Up and down for everybody. So our YouTube has lacked a little bit. But yes, we do have channels. We will post all that later on. You can check out more information on the webinar posts and on the Facebook posts, and we'll have all those things going forward. So thanks so much, everybody. We are a little bit over time, so sorry about that. See y'all next time, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye, Peter. See everybody.
Bye.